You know those days, the ones where you're just cruising through a store, minding your own business, and then bam, the universe decides to drop a full-blown Category 5 Karen right into your path. Yeah, I had one of those days recently, and trust me, this story, it's going to live rent-free in my head for a long, long time. So I was in one of those big box stores, you know the type, endless aisles, bright lights, the faint scent of well stuff. I was just trying to snag some new throw pillows, completely in my own little world of fabric swatches when I heard it, the unmistakable, rising squawk of a woman who was clearly not getting her way. It started as a low rumble, then crescendoed into a full-on screech. My internal alarm bells immediately went off. I mean, you don't spend enough time on Reddit without recognizing the siren call of an entitled person in the wild. I rounded the corner, pillow samples clutched in my hand, and there she was. A woman, mid-50s maybe, with a perfectly coiffed, aggressively blonde bob, a face the color of a ripe tomato, and hands gesturing wildly. She was absolutely laying into some poor teenage girl behind the customer service counter. This kid looked like she was maybe 16, tops, wearing the store's standard ill-fitting blue polo, and her eyes were wide, glistening, like she was holding back tears by sheer force of will. "I have been standing here for 10 minutes, Karen shrieked, her voice echoing off the high ceilings. "Are you deaf, incompetent, do you even work here? This is ridiculous, I need a manager now." The girl, bless her heart, stammered, "Ma'am, I'm just trying to verify the price, it's not scanning correctly." "I don't care about your little scanners," Karen cut her off, leaning over the counter, practically spitting. "I have places to be, this is outrageous, you're wasting my time, I demand you fix this immediately or I will have your job." My blood was starting to boil. This poor kid looked utterly helpless, trapped. My inner Reddit editor, ironically, kicked in. Someone had to step in. I took a deep breath, walked over, and planted myself a few feet from the counter. "Excuse me, ma'am," I said, trying to keep my voice calm but firm. "Is there a problem here?" Karen snapped her head towards me, her eyes narrowed. "Who are you? This is none of your business. This girl is completely useless." Before I could even respond, a new figure entered the fray. He appeared almost silently, like a well-dressed phantom. He was a man in an impeccably tailored dark suit, not a security uniform, not an employee polo, just a sharp, expensive-looking suit. He had a calm, almost serene expression, but his eyes, I noticed, were incredibly sharp, taking everything in. He stepped right up to the counter, positioning himself between Karen and the terrified teenager. "Ma'am," he said, his voice quiet but carrying an undeniable weight, "it seems there's a disturbance. Could you explain what's happening?" Karen, surprisingly, reeled it in just a fraction for him. Clearly, the suit commanded respect. "Finally, someone with authority, this girl here," she pointed an accusatory finger at the trembling teen, "is absolutely worthless. She can't even scan a simple item. She's slow, she's rude, and she needs to be fired. This is unacceptable customer service." The man in the suit listened, his gaze fixed on Karen, not once interrupting her tirade. When she finally ran out of breath, he turned his attention to the young girl. "Is that true?" he asked, his voice gentle. The girl's lower lip quivered. "And no, sir, I was just trying to find the correct price. The system was glitching and she wouldn't give me a moment to look it up." The man nodded slowly, then turned back to Karen, his calm demeanor never wavering. "I see," he said, and there was a subtle shift in his tone, a new edge of steel. "So, you believe this young lady is incompetent, rude, and deserves to be fired for trying to do her job when the system had a minor technical issue?" Karen puffed out her chest. "Absolutely, she's wasting my time, she should be grateful to even have a job." That's when it happened. The quiet man in the suit simply smiled. It wasn't a warm smile, but a knowing, almost dangerous one. He looked at the teenage girl, a genuine kindness in his eyes. "You know what?" he said, his voice clear, cutting through the store's background hum. "You're right, she shouldn't have this job, not if this is how she's treated." He turned to the girl. "You're done, go home. You're no longer an employee here, effective immediately." My jaw nearly hit the floor. The teenage girl's eyes went wide with shock, then slowly a glimmer of confusion, then unbelievably pure, unadulterated relief spread across her face. A tiny, hopeful smile started to form. Karen, however, exploded. "What? You can't just fire her, she's supposed to be helping me, this is ridiculous." The man in the suit turned back to Karen, his smile gone, replaced by a gaze of cold, unwavering authority. Actually, ma'am, he said, his voice dropping to a near whisper but with a force that made Karen visibly flinch. I just did. And now she's no longer an employee. In fact, as of this second, she's a customer. A customer who has just been subjected to unprovoked verbal abuse. He then looked back at the girl. Miss, is there anything you need help with as a customer today? Perhaps I can assist you myself. The girl, now fully smiling, shook her head, tears of relief now openly streaming. No, sir, I think I'm just going to go home. Thank you. Karen was spluttering, her face a shade of purple I didn't know existed. This is outrageous. You can't just she was serving me. She's not a customer. She's taking advantage. The man in the suit took a step closer to Karen, his voice losing all trace of politeness. Ma'am, I suggest you rethink your position. This young lady is a customer. And your continued harassment of a customer on my property will result in you being escorted out by security. Do I make myself clear? The silence that followed was deafening. Karen, finally understanding the unspoken threat and the absolute authority emanating from the man, deflated like a punctured balloon. She gave him one last furious, defeated glare, muttered something unintelligible under her breath about unprofessionalism and reporting everyone, and then stalked off, a furious storm in human form vanishing into the clothing section. As soon as she was out of sight, the tension snapped. The teenage girl burst out laughing, a sound so pure and relieved it was infectious. The man in the suit chuckled, a genuine, warm laugh this time. And I, still holding my pillow samples, couldn't help but join in. It was the most satisfying comeuppance I'd ever witnessed live. I later learned the man in the suit wasn't just a manager. He was the regional director visiting that specific store for an unannounced inspection. Talk about karma dropping a bomb on a Karen. That poor girl was fired right into freedom, and honestly, the look on her face when she realized she didn't have to deal with people like that anymore, priceless. It just goes to show you, sometimes the legends aren't just in the stories we read. Sometimes they're impeccably dressed, silently observing, and ready to drop the hammer of justice when a wild Karen unleashes her entitlement on the unsuspecting. And sometimes you just get to be there to witness it all. Absolutely legendary.
This next one had Reddit losing its mind. Quick pause, subscribe now, because the chaos doesn't stop here.
All right, Reddit, buckle up. I'm Ethan, 24, and my job as a fire investigator for insurance companies usually involves sifting through charred remains and piecing together intricate puzzles. But sometimes it involves, well, this. You know those days where you just stare at someone and wonder if they're operating on a completely different plane of reality? Yeah, this was one of those days. It was a Monday, and the air still hung heavy with that acrid, metallic tang of burnt everything. Me and Mark, my seasoned investigation partner, were standing in what used to be the parking lot of a pretty standard fast food joint. Except now it was a war zone. My black coveralls and Carhartt were practically custom-made for this kind of scene, and the N95 mask felt like a second skin. Around us, the lot was littered with debris, a chaotic mosaic of glass shards, singed insulation, and twisted metal. In the middle, a literal 9-foot-tall mountain of burnt-out structural components just loomed. Half-melted roof ventilation systems lay scattered like broken toys, and bright yellow caution tape crisscrossed every conceivable angle, making the entire area look like a giant, dangerous gift box. To top it all off, a fire engine, still with its lights softly strobing, was parked squarely across the main entrance, making it abundantly clear that this wasn't a quick pit stop. We were just taking a moment, running through our mental checklists when this beat-up old van rumbled by, window down. The driver, a guy who looked like he'd just woken up from a long nap, stared at us with a slow, unfocused gaze. He then tried to make a hard left into the entrance blocked by the fire engine, screeched to a halt inches from its bumper, and did this incredibly awkward three-point turn. Then, without missing a beat, he drove straight for the other entrance, heading right for us. Called it, Mark muttered, barely moving his lips behind his own mask, a dry chuckle in his voice. Sure enough, the van eased to a stop right in front of us, its engine idling loudly. The driver leaned out the window, blinking slowly. "Hey," he drawled, "what happened here?" I exchanged a glance with Mark. There was a fire, sir, I replied, keeping my voice as neutral as possible. That's what we're here to figure out. He nodded as if this was perfectly logical, then paused. So, can I get a cheeseburger and a medium fry? My brain did a hard stop. Look around, man. Sir, there was a fire, I repeated, pointing vaguely at the smoldering pile behind me. You can't get a cheeseburger. His face scrunched up slightly like he was trying to solve a particularly difficult math problem. Oh, right, okay, so large Coke instead. I felt a sigh start to form deep in my chest. No, sir, there was a fire, you can't get a Coke. He was silent for a beat, just staring at me, then at Mark, then back at me. Do you work here? He asked, a hint of genuine confusion in his voice. I felt Mark tense up next to me, probably ready to intervene. This was my rodeo, though. I took a slow breath. Sir, we are investigating the fire that just destroyed this restaurant. Oh, he said again, the light finally seeming to dawn just a little. So, it's closed then. Yes, I said, trying to infuse as much patience as I possibly could into one word. It's closed because of the fire. He nodded again, a slow, deliberate motion. All right, well, have a good one. And with that, he put the van in drive and slowly, ponderously pulled away, leaving us standing there amidst the wreckage. I watched him go, then turned to Mark, pulling my mask down just enough to rub my forehead. You ever just want to scream? I asked, my voice a little tight. Mark, ever the stoic, just offered a wry grin and a shrug. Just another day, Ethan. Some folks, they just really need their cheeseburger. Some days, I swear I'm going to need therapy for what I witness, and it's not always the flames and the destruction. Sometimes it's just the sheer, unadulterated lack of common sense. I'm only 24, and I've already seen enough weird stuff to fill a lifetime of Reddit stories.
You ever just want to enjoy a quiet Saturday, maybe pick up some fresh fish, and instead find yourself starring in an unscripted episode of Karen V's Common Decency? Yeah, that was my morning at the Asian supermarket, and honestly, I'm still buzzing from it. May here, and boy, do I have a story for you. I was just minding my own business deep in the fish and meat section, trying to decide between the fresh mackerel and the octopus when I started getting these looks. Two non-Asian women, probably in their late 40s or early 50s, were staring at me with that unmistakable lost tourist vibe. They looked utterly bewildered, scanning the signs written in Chinese characters like they were trying to decipher ancient runes. Now, I'm usually a pretty helpful person. I saw their predicament and figuring they needed a hand, I offered a polite, "Can I help you ladies find anything?" Woman number one, a blonde with a perpetually surprised expression, blinked at me. "Do you speak English?" she asked, her voice tinged with a mix of surprise and what felt like a touch of condescension. I'm fluent, obviously, but her tone immediately put me on guard. "Yes, I do," I replied, perhaps a little more clipped than I intended. Before I could even elaborate, woman number two, sporting a severe bob, leaned in and said, "Could you speak a little louder and slower, please? We can't quite understand you." As if I was the one with the comprehension problem. My jaw almost hit the floor. I wasn't speaking particularly fast or quietly, this was just rude. But hey, I'm nothing if not patient initially. I took a breath, forced a smile, and in a deliberately over-enunciated voice I told them, "Sure." "What are you looking for?" They mumbled something about shrimp chips. I pointed to the far aisle, explaining they're usually on aisle 5 near the snacks, just past the dried seaweed. As I was giving these perfectly clear directions, something shifted. They actually started talking about me right in front of my face as if I'd suddenly vanished into thin air. What a bitch," woman number two muttered, loud enough for half the aisle to hear. "She's so lazy," woman number one added, rolling her eyes in my direction. "Can't even get decent help here. You'd think they'd hire people who actually want to work." That's when my patience evaporated. Gone, poof. I went from polite helper to seeing red in about 2 seconds flat. They were calling me lazy, assuming I worked here all while I was trying to help them. The sheer audacity, the entitlement, the casual racism of it all just boiled my blood. So I dropped my voice, letting it practically drip with icy sarcasm. "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize I was supposed to be working here." I paused, letting that sink in, then delivered the punchline. "Because, I don't work here." Their faces were a masterpiece of rapidly cycling emotions, shock, then a flush of embarrassment, quickly followed by a surge of pure, unadulterated anger. They looked like I'd personally slapped them with a wet fish. "You're so uncooperative," woman number one snapped, trying to regain some semblance of control. "Well, you're just useless," woman number two huffed, clearly still thinking I was the one who was wrong. I was done, beyond done. My vision narrowed and I felt that familiar surge of adrenaline. My coworker would say I had murderous intent in my eyes, and he wouldn't be wrong. Without breaking eye contact, I took a slow, deliberate step towards them. Then another and another. My shopping basket was still hooked over my arm, but for a split second I considered just dropping it and letting them have it. They got the message. Their indignant expressions crumpled, replaced by a flicker of fear. They stumbled back, bumping into each other, and then practically scuttled away down the aisle like startled crabs. Good. As I continued my shopping, trying to cool down, I couldn't shake it. It's just astounding, isn't it? How some people feel so entitled, so superior, that they can treat others with utter disrespect, make assumptions, and then blame you for their own ignorance. The whole speak slower and louder thing, the immediate bitch and lazy comments, it's a classic microaggression that a lot of us, especially immigrants or people who look foreign, deal with. It reminded me of something my coworker once told me. She's a Polish immigrant, and early in her career she'd often have colleagues speak to her like she was a child, slowly and loudly, despite her perfectly fluent English. It wasn't just demeaning, it was exhausting. I felt that solidarity, that deep understanding of how it chips away at you. I don't know about you, but I've always believed in treating everyone with respect, regardless of where they're from or what language they speak. We're all just trying to live our lives, and a little dignity goes a long way. So next time you're in a situation like that, whether it's happening to you or someone else, please stand up. Don't let people walk all over you. Be proud of who you are, speak your mind, and never let anyone make you feel less than for just existing. Anyway, thanks for listening to my vent, guys. I really appreciate it. Catch you all next time.
Still in the mood for more? Watch this video next.